Blood stains the mirror. Poirot's twin commits murder. The greatest detective hunted by himself. Welcome to the Doppelgänger plot when Poirot faced himself. Grab your tea, sink into your seat, savor every twist. Enjoying the ride? Smash subscribe, your support keeps these tales alive. Drop in comments where you watch from right now. Chapter 1. The mirror cracks. Hercule Poirot adjusted his perfect moustache in the polished mirror of his London flat. The morning light filtered through lace curtains, casting a golden glow on his immaculate sitting room. Every cushion fluffed, every ashtray empty. Order reigned supreme. He turned away satisfied and settled into his favorite armchair. The Daily Post waited on the side table, a neat stack thanks to Miss Lemon. He picked up the top envelope. Plain white, no return address. Curiosity piqued, he slit it open with a silver letter opener. Inside a single sheet of paper, typed words jumped out. "You will die tonight, little man," signed by someone calling himself Poirot. His eyebrows shot up. A joke, perhaps, but Poirot did not laugh. Threats demanded attention. The door opened precisely at 9. Miss Lemon entered with her notebook. "Good morning, Monsieur Poirot," she said briskly. "Your tea in the Times." She placed the tray down and handed him the newspaper. He nodded absently, still staring at the letter. "Thank you, Felicity," he murmured. She paused, noticing his expression. "Something wrong, sir?" Poirot folded the letter carefully. "Perhaps nothing. Perhaps everything. Read the front page, my dear." She glanced down. Headlines screamed murder at the Savoy. A prominent banker stabbed in his suite. No witnesses. Police baffled. Miss Lemon gasped. Horrible. But why? Poirot tapped the letter. The description. "Read it aloud." She scanned the article. The killer, a small man with an egg-shaped head, enormous moustache, foreign accent. Demanded money, then struck with a dagger, vanished into the night. Her eyes widened. "It sounds like exactly," Poirot finished. "Like me, but I dined quietly here last night. With Captain Hastings." She nodded. "I served the meal myself. An imposter." The telephone rang shrill in the silence. Miss Lemon answered. "For you, sir? Inspector Japp." Poirot took the receiver. "Mon ami, what brings you so early?" Japp's voice crackled urgent. "Poirot, get down here now. The Savoy. You're in it deep." Poirot replaced the receiver calmly. "It begins. Miss Lemon, ring for my coat. We go to the Savoy." She hurried out. Poirot stood pondering. A doppelganger. His own image used for evil. The little grey cells stirred. A quick cab ride through foggy streets brought them to the Grand Hotel. Uniformed constables guarded the entrance. Japp waited in the lobby, pipe in mouth. "About time, Poirot. You look like death. Or should I say your twin does?" "Lead on," Inspector Poirot said dryly. They rode the lift to the 5th floor. Yellow tape cordoned the suite. Inside, chaos. Overturned furniture, blood on the carpet. The body lay sprawled near the window. Banker Reginald Forsyth, portly in his pajamas. Dagger in his chest. Japp pointed to a calling card on the floor. "Yours, Poirot." Immaculate printing. Hercule Poirot, world's greatest detective. Poirot knelt examining it. Forged, but perfect. He stood and surveyed the room. The window locked from inside. No fire escape. The killer walked out the door. Servants heard voices. Forsyth arguing with a man matching your description. Japp continued. Thick Belgian accent. Demanded hush money for some scandal. Forsyth refused. Stabbed him clean. Wiped the blade, left the card. Bold as brass. Poirot paced slowly. Bold, yes, but foolish. Tell me, Inspector, who was Forsyth? Japp shrugged. Bigwig in banking. Rumors of embezzlement. Enemies galore. But this, it's personal. Aimed at you. The door burst open. Captain Hastings rushed in. Poirot, old man. I came as soon as Lemon rang. What's this madness? Poirot smiled faintly. My friend, sit down. Much to discuss. Hastings obeyed, looking pale. Japp filled him in. Hastings whistled. You a murderer. Preposterous. Precisely, Poirot agreed. Therefore we find the real killer. Start with Forsyth's life. Miss Lemon appeared, notebook ready. I took the liberty, sir. She handed over a dossier. Forsyth's schedule contacts secrets. Poirot scanned it. Excellent. See here. He was meeting someone tonight. Initials HP. Poirot echoed. Hastings leaned forward. Not Poirot himself. The imposter uses my initials. Clever, Jap grunted, or mocking. Either way, you're suspect number 1. Chief Constable wants your head. Poirot waved it off. Let him wait. We visit the widow first. Mrs. Forsyth lives nearby. Jap nodded. They'll drive. The group piled into Jap's car. Rain began to fall, turning streets slick. Hastings fidgeted. Poirot, how can anyone look like you? That mustache alone. Trade secret, my friend Poirot replied with a wink. But seriously, disguise is art. Wax padding spirit gum. Possible, yet why me? What grudge? They arrived at a townhouse in Mayfair. Mrs. Forsyth received them in black already. Pale, beautiful eyes red-rimmed. Inspector Jap murmured condolences. She nodded numb. Poirot stepped forward. Madame permis question. She looked at him sharply. You. The card. No, Madame Poirot said firmly. An imposter. Tell us about last night. She hesitated, then spoke. Reggie came home late. Upset. Mentioned a meeting at the Savoy. Blackmail. Said the man looked like a detective. Famous one. Poirot pressed gently. Did he name him? She shook her head. Just said HP. Threatened to expose deals. Reggie paid nothing. Said he'd handle it. Then he went out. Never came back, Hastings asked softly. Deals, madame. Illegal. She flushed. Business. Loans to foreigners. Nothing wrong. Poirot noted the evasion. Thank you, madame. One more thing. Did your husband keep a safe? She pointed to a painting. Behind there. Jap opened it. Empty. Papers gone. Blackmailer took evidence, Poirot deduced. We must find HP. Back in the car, Jap turned serious. Poirot, you're off the case. Orders. Poirot smiled. As you wish, mon ami. But I continue privately. Hastings grinned. That's the spirit. Where to now? Poirot thought. My club. Discretion needed. They headed to White's. Inside leather chairs, cigar smoke. Poirot ordered cognacs. Now, gentlemen, theories. Jap first. Random nutter copying you. Possible, Poirot conceded. But the letter to me? Personal, Hastings suggested. Forsyth's enemy framing you. To discredit, excellent, my friend. But why my face? Someone who knows me well. Jap lit his pipe. Rival detective. Or old foe. Remember the Abercrombie forgery? You humiliated Moriarty. Poirot nodded slowly. Moriarty. Imprisoned but clever. Could he orchestrate from inside? Hastings scoffed. Hell send a look-alike. The waiter approached. Telegram for Monsieur Poirot. He opened it. Another threat. Meet me tonight or more die. Signed HP. Poirot folded it. The game accelerates. They left the club, dusk falling. Poirot directed to a quiet pub. Neutral ground. Inside dim lights wooden bar. No one suspicious. Yet, hours passed. Midnight neared. Footsteps. A man entered. Short, stocky, egghead. Black mustache waxed to points. Dressed like Poirot. Tweed jacket spats. He approached smirking. Evening, Hercule. Miss me? Poirot stared. Who are you? The man laughed. Your mirror image. Call me Dupro. Dupro sat uninvited. Fine work at the Savoy, eh? Forsyth squealed like a pig. Hastings gripped his chair. You monster. Jap reached for cuffs. Easy, lad. Let Poirot handle. Poirot leaned in. Why my face? Dupro shrugged. You're famous. Perfect cover. Killers vanish in crowds. But now you interfere. Hence the invitation. Join me or die. Ridiculous, Poirot snapped. I expose you. Dupro stood. Try it. Next victim, your precious Hastings, Tara. He slipped out into night. Jap cursed. Lost him. Poirot calm. No, we follow. They rushed outside. Alley empty. But a glove dropped. Monogram HP. Back at the flat. Miss Lemon waited anxious. Report, sir. Poirot briefed her. Dupro. Hunt on. She typed notes furiously. Ill-check records. Lookalikes actors. Dawn broke. Poirot slept little. The mirror mocked him now. His face a mask for murder. Little grey cells word. Clues piled. Letter card glove. All pointed to theatre. Disguise experts, he rose determined. Today we visit Wardrobe Street, home of masks and lies. Hastings yawned. Lead on, old boy. Adventure calls. The street bustled, costumers, wigs, makeup. Shops crammed with faces false and true. Poirot entered the first. Madame Zara proprietor. Bushy eyebrows, fake mustaches. Can I help? Poirot described Duprot. She paled. Yes. Regular. Calls himself Emile. Buys Poirot kits. Exact replicas. Paid well. Last week. Progress. Address. She hesitated. Client confidentiality. Jap flashed badge. Now, madame. She scribbled an address. East End Dive, they motored there. Slums fog thick. Knock no answer. Door ajar. Inside chaos. Trunks overturned, wigs everywhere. A body. Madame Zara gasped from shadows. He did this. Last night. The corpse a young man. Throat cut. Note pinned. Traitor signed Duprot. Poirot examined. Amateur makeup on table. Half-finished Poirot face. Jap radioed men. Murder too. Poirot pondered. Duprot cleans house. We close. Hastings found a photo. Duprot with Forsyth. Arm in arm. Partners. Extortion ring. Forsyth financed. Duprot executed. Split when greedy. Forsyth killed. Now us Miss Lemon rang. Sir found it. Emile Dupont actor. Released from prison last month. Moriarty's cellmate bingo. The web tightens. Poirot smiled wolfishly. Tonight we trap the rat. Sun set. Plans formed. Jap staked out. Hastings decoy. Poirot bait. The flat prepared. Lights low. Tea steaming. Waiting. Clock struck 10. Doorbell. Hastings answered. Entered Duprot, smug, ready to talk Hastings. From shadows, Poirot emerged. Mon cher welcome. Duprot spun. You! Trap! Jap burst in. Hands up. Duprot lunged for knife. Struggle. Hastings tackled. Cuffs clicked. Game over, but wait. Duprot laughed maniacally. Too late, Poirot. The plot deepens. Bombs tick. Your friend's in danger. Real mastermind laughs. Fade to shock. Chapter ends on cliff. What bombs? Who mastermind? Stay tuned. Chapter 2. The Clockwork. Bomb Duprot sat cuffed to a chair in the Scotland Yard interrogation room, cold steel biting his wrists. Jap loomed over him, pipe glowing like a red eye. Talk, you swine. Bombs where? Duprot grinned, teeth yellow. Tick-tock, Inspector. Your time runs short. Poirot entered quietly, closing the door with a soft click. He placed his hat on the table and sat opposite the prisoner. Mon ami, you mistake me for a man who bluffs. I never bluff. Duprot leaned forward, chains rattling. Then listen close, little Belgian. 3 devices. 1 under this building. 1 at the Savoy. 1 at your precious flat. All set for midnight. Boom. No more Poirot. No more meddlers. Jap paled. Evacuate. Now. He bolted out, barking orders into the corridor. Constables scattered, phones rang, alarms wailed. Poirot remained seated, eyes locked on Duprot. You built them. Duprot chuckled. Built. Bought. Borrowed. Moriarty sends regards from his cell. Taught me everything. Wires, springs, clocks. Simple, really. Poirot stood smoothly. Then you disarmed them. Duprot shook his head. Too late. Keys destroyed. Only I know the sequence. Free me or die. Poirot smiled thinly. We shall see. He exited, leaving Duprot alone with 2 burly sergeants. In the hallway, Jap met him, frantic. Bombe squad en route. 10 minutes tops. Poirot nodded. We split. I take the flat. You the Savoy. Hastings comes with me. They race through night streets, sirens howling behind. Hastings gripped the wheel knuckles white. Poirot, old chap, bombs. Never thought. Focus, my friend, Poirot cut in. The little grey cells must dance. At the flat, Miss Lemon waited on the pavement, coat over nightgown. Sir, I heard. Inside, quick. Poirot scanned the sitting room. Nothing amiss. Cushions straight. Tea tray untouched. He knelt by the fireplace. A new brick, loose, pried it out. Wires gleamed. A brass clock face ticked loudly. 8 minutes left. Hastings swallowed. Diffuse it. Poirot studied the mechanism. Red wire, blue wire, green. Clockwork gears meshed tight. He traced the circuit with a finger. Moriarty's design. Elegant. Deadly. Miss Lemon handed tools from her sewing kit. Needle-nosed pliers. Steady, sir. Poirot clipped the green wire. Tick slowed. He exhaled. Safe here. Now the others. Phone rang. Jap breathless. Savoy clear. Device in the ballroom chandelier. Disarmed. Yard next. Squad there. Poirot hung up. One remains. Duprot lies. Only 2 or 3. He turned to Hastings. Back to yard. They arrived amid chaos. Officers streamed out. Bomb squad captain waved them over. Under the interrogation floor. Clock ticking. 4 minutes. Poirot descended stairs to the basement. Damp stone walls. A wooden crate in the corner. Lid pried open. The device larger. More wires. A second clock. 3 minutes 50. Captain sweated. Too many leads. Can't risk. Evacuate. Poirot pushed past. Let me. He knelt. The setup differed. False wires, decoys, Moriarty's trick. He ignored the obvious red and blue. Found a thin black thread hidden beneath. Snipped it. Silence. Captain stared. How? Poirot rose, dusting knees. Psychologie, mon ami. The criminal mind overcomplicates. To confuse. But order reveals truth. Upstairs Duprot heard the quiet. His grin faded. Jap entered triumphant. All clear, you fool, Duprot spat. Moriarty wins anyway. Seeds planted. Your reputation ruined. Poirot appeared in the doorway. Reputation. A small price. Truth endures. Take him away, Inspector. Cells clanged shut on Duprot. Dawn painted the Thames pink. Poirot, Hastings and Jap stood outside yard, weary but alive. Hastings yawned. Tea. Real tea. Poirot shook his head. Not yet. Duprot spoke of seeds. A larger plot. Moriarty pulls strings from prison. We visit him. Today. Train to Dartmoor rumbled through green fields. Stone walls rose grim against sky. Wormwood scrubs. Governor met them at gates. Moriarty. Solitary. No visitors. Poirot smiled. Except me. Iron doors opened. A narrow cell. Moriarty sat at a table chessboard before him. Tall, gaunt eyes sharp as knives. He looked up and laughed. Poirot. My favourite pawn. Sit. Poirot took the chair. Your game fails. Balms diffused. Duprot caged. Moriarty moved a knight. Check. Merely opening moves. The board is vast. Poirot studied the pieces. You use my face to kill. Why? Moriarty leaned back. To prove genius transcends bars. Your order against my chaos. And to draw you here. Hastings bristled. Blackmail murder. For sport. Moriarty ignored him, eyes on Poirot. Admit it. You enjoy the dance. Poirot placed a finger on the king. Perhaps. But I end it. He toppled the piece. Checkmate. Your Duprot sings already. Names. Dates. Accounts. Moriarty's smile froze. Impossible. Poirot stood. Nothing is impossible. Only improbable. Governor Guards entered. Moriarty rose slowly. Until next time, Poirot. The game never ends. Back in London, evening fell. Poirot sat alone in his flat. The mirror reflected a tired face. He adjusted the moustache. A knock. Miss Lemon with a parcel. Delivered anonymously, sir. He opened it. A small box. Inside a silver pocket watch. Engraved HP. It ticked loudly. He froze. Another bomb. Hastings burst in. Poirot don't. Too late. The watch exploded in confetti. A note fluttered down. Congratulations. Round 2 begins. Signed Mir. Poirot stared at the mess. The doppelganger was merely the knight. The king still played. Night deepened. Somewhere a new clock began to tick. Chapter 3. The shadow syndicate Poirot swept the confetti into a neat pile with his shoe and placed the silver watch on the mantel, its hands frozen at midnight. Hastings hovered by the door, eyes wide. Round 2, he muttered. Moriarty never quits. Poirot turned the note over in gloved fingers. Paper-thick watermark of a serpent coiled around a crown. A crest he recognized from old case files. The Order of the Serpent. Long thought disbanded. Miss Lemon entered carrying fresh tea and a telegram. From the yard, sir. Urgent. Poirot slit the envelope. Another murder. This time in Paris. Victim a diplomat. Stabbed. Calling card left. His own. He handed the telegram to Hastings. The game spreads beyond England. We cross the channel tonight. The night ferry cut through black water. Poirot stood on deck, wind whipping his coat. Hastings joined him, flask in hand. Brandy, old boy. Poirot declined. Clarity demands sobriety. Below deck, Jap snored in a cabin. Miss Lemon typed reports on a portable machine. Dawn broke over Calais. A waiting car sped them to Paris. The Seine gleamed under weak sun. Police headquarters buzzed. Inspector Leclerc greeted them, cigarette dangling. Monsieur Poirot, your reputation precedes the corpse. The morgue smelled of formaldehyde. The body lay on a steel table. Ambassador Claude Renaud, throat slit ear to ear. On the tray beside him, the calling card. Poirot lifted it with tweezers. Same stock as London, same perfect forgery. Leclerc led them to the crime scene. A suite at the Ritz, luxury untouched. Blood only on the carpet where Renaud fell. Window open to a balcony. No fingerprints, no struggle. The killer knew his victim. Poirot knelt by the stain. See the angle. Left-handed thrust. Our friend Duprot is right-handed. Someone knew where's my face. Hastings paled. Another double. Back at headquarters, Leclerc spread files. Renaud investigated arms smuggling. Names linked to the Serpent Crest. A syndicate reborn. Moriarty's fingerprints all over. Poirot traced a finger across a map pinned to the wall. Shipments from Marseille to London. Stops in Brussels. Antwerp. A network. We follow the cargo. Tonight. The drive south took hours. Marseille at midnight. Docks stank of fish and diesel. Crates stamped with the serpent emblem waited under floodlights, Poirot signalled. They hid behind barrels. Footsteps. 2 men. 1 short. Moustache. Tweed. The new doppelgänger. He spoke French with a Belgian lilt. Load the special crate. Boss wants it in London by dawn, Hastings whispered. That's not Duprot. Poirot nodded. A third player. The man turned. His face perfect, but eyes cold. Dead. A whistle. Police swarmed. Leclerc's men. The doppelganger bolted. Poirot gave chase. Alleys twisted. Crates loomed. The runner vaulted a fence. Poirot followed, coat tearing. Cornered in a warehouse. The man spun, knife flashing. Stay back, fraud. Poirot raised hands. We are alike, you and I. Tools of a greater mind. The doppelganger laughed. Moriarty promised freedom. Wealth. All I do is act. He lunged. Poirot sidestepped. Grabbed a rope. Swung a crate. Wood splintered. The man fell, stunned. Cuffs snapped. Leclerc arrived, panting. Name. The prisoner spat. Jean-Claude. Actor. Like Duprot. Hired by letter. Paid in gold. Poirot lifted a locket from the man's neck. Inside a photo. Moriarty younger. Smiling. Personal. Back in the car, Poirot examined shipping manifests. 1 crate marked fragile. Destination London. Whitechapel. Arrives tomorrow. Hastings rubbed his chin. Weapons. Leclerc shook his head. Worse. Documents. Proof of government corruption. Enough to topple cabinets. Poirot closed the file. Then we intercept. Return to England. The train north rattled through darkness. Poirot stared out the window, reflections of his face in the glass. How many more, he wondered. London greeted them with rain. Whitechapel warehouse loomed by the Thames. Fog thick. Jap met them with reinforcements. Quiet operation. No sirens. Inside crates lined walls. The special ones sat apart, locked, sealed. Poirot knelt, listened. A faint tick, not a clock. A timer. Jap swore. Another bomb. Poirot traced the lid. Wax seal. Serpent crest. He cracked it open. Inside, not papers. A mannequin, dressed as Poirot. Head blown off. Straw stuffing spilled like guts. A note pinned to the chest. Next time it's you. Hastings kicked the crate. Mockery. Poirot lifted the head. Porcelain. Hand-painted. Eyes glass. Realistic. Beneath the wig, a wire. He pulled. A small recorder clicked. Moriarty's voice echoed tinny. Well done, Poirot. You chase shadows, while I walk free. Silence fell. Jap punched the wall. His out. Escaped. Poirot folded the note. The syndicate protects its king. We strike the heart. Outside, dawn crept grey. A boy ran up. Telegram for Poirot. He opened it. One line. Meet me at the tower. Come alone. Signed M. Hastings grabbed his arm. Trap. Poirot gently removed the hand. All games end at the board. The Tower of London loomed under scaffolding. Tourists gone. Ravens cawed. Poirot walked the path alone. Footsteps echoed. A figure waited by the White Tower. Tall, cloaked. Moriarty turned. No chains, no guards. Free. Poirot stopped 10 paces away. How? Moriarty smiled. Money buys keys. Loyalty buys silence. The order lives. Poirot glanced around. Snipers, perhaps. Moriarty raised a hand. No tricks, just talk. Join me. Your mind wasted on petty justice. Together we rule. Poirot laughed softly. You mistake order for servitude. I serve truth. Moriarty's eyes hardened, then die. He snapped fingers. Shadows moved. 4 men. All Poirot. All armed. The real Poirot smiled. You mistake solitude for weakness. From the battlements ropes dropped. Jap, Hastings, Leclerc, Miss Lemon with a rifle. The doppelgangers froze. Moriarty bolted. Poirot pursued. Up spiral stairs. Wind whipped. The roof. Moriarty at the edge. London spread below. Stop, Poirot called. It's over. Moriarty turned. Never. He stepped back. Into air. Poirot lunged. Grabbed coat. Pulled. Moriarty dangled. Eyes wild. Let go. Poirot strained. No. Moriarty kicked. Coat tore. He fell. A thud. Below. Silence. Jap reached the roof. Gone. Poirot stared down. Body on stones. Ravens descended. Hastings arrived breathless. The others. Rounded up. Poirot nodded slowly. The king falls. The board clears. But in the distance, Big Ben chimed. A new crate waited somewhere. The game never truly ended. Chapter 4. The serpent's Ledger Poirot stood over the broken body of Professor Moriarty, while ravens picked at the stones below the White Tower, and the first pale light of morning crept across the Thames. Jap clapped a hand on his shoulder, but Poirot only stared at the empty space where the mastermind had vanished into air. Hastings arrived panting with Leclerc and a squad of French gendarmes who began rounding up the 4 remaining doppelgangers, still blinking in the dawn. Miss Lemon descended from the parapet rifle slung across her back, calm as if she had merely posted a letter. The king is dead, she said quietly. Long live the king. Poirot turned sharply. What do you mean, Felicity? She held up a small black notebook snatched from Moriarty's coat during the struggle. His ledger. Names, dates, payments. The order did not die with him. They retreated to Poirot's flat where the fire crackled and tea steamed in delicate cups. Miss Lemon spread the ledger across the table, its pages dense with coded entries. Poirot adjusted his pince-nez and began translating the cramped script. Shipments of arms from Antwerp to Cairo, bribes to 3 cabinet ministers, a prince in Monaco, a cardinal in Rome. Each line signed with the serpent crest. Hastings whistled low. Enough to start wars. Jap leaned in. And enough to hang half of Europe. We burn it now. Poirot closed the book gently. No, mon ami. We use it. A knock sounded at the door. A liveried footman entered bearing a silver tray. From the Home Secretary, sir. Urgent. The envelope bore the royal seal. Poirot slit it open and read aloud. The ledger must disappear. National security. Return it unsealed. He folded the note and tucked it into his waistcoat. Governments fear truth more than bombs. We proceed carefully. That afternoon, Poirot dispatched Miss Lemon to the Bank of England, with instructions to photograph every page in secret. Hastings shadowed a courier seen leaving the tower carrying a sealed package addressed to an address in Geneva. Jap returned to the yard to trace the 4 captive. Doubles, each actor hired through the same theatrical agency in Soho. Poirot himself took a cab to the Diogenes, club where silence reigned, and Mycroft Holmes waited in a corner chair, vast and immobile. Brother Sherlock sends regards, Mycroft rumbled without looking up. He predicted Moriarty's fall, but not the hydra beneath. Poirot sat. The ledger names a mole inside Whitehall, close to the throne. Mycroft's eyes narrowed. Then you hold a loaded pistol. Use it wisely or it fires back. Night fell hard. Hastings returned breathless. The courier led to a discreet townhouse in Belgravia. Lights burned late. Guests in evening dress. I saw the Home Secretary arrive. Poirot nodded. The web tightens. We attend the gathering. Disguised. Miss Lemon produced invitations forged that morning on embassy stationery. The ball swirled with crystal and champagne. Chandeliers blazed. Poirot entered as a minor Belgian attaché, moustache, trimmed shorter coat cut foreign. Hastings posed as his aide. They drifted through the crowd, ears open. In the library, a circle of men spoke in hushed tones. The Home Secretary Centre. Beside him, a woman in emerald silk, Countess Valeria Dragomir. Name in the ledger. Top tier. She laughed softly and touched the secretary's arm. Tomorrow the vote passes. The prince signs. The pipeline opens. Poirot edged closer. Pipeline. Oil or influence. A footman offered canapes. Poirot took one and slipped behind a velvet curtain. From there he watched the Countess excuse herself and ascend the grand staircase. He followed at a distance. Upstairs, a locked study. She produced a key. Inside, a safe yawned open. She removed a folder thick with maps. Poirot stepped from the shadows. Bonsoir, madame. Startled, she spun folder, clutched to her chest. You, the detective. Poirot bowed. At your service. Or rather at the service of truth. She lunged for a bell cord. Poirot caught her wrist. The folder spilled. Maps of the Caucasus. Oil routes. Signatures. The secretaries. The princes. She hissed. You cannot stop progress. Poirot smiled sadly. Progress built on blood is regression. Footsteps thundered below. Guards. He bundled the maps into his coat and pushed past her. Down the servants' stair. Into the night. Hastings waited in a hired motor. Drive. They sped through sleeping streets. Behind them, shouts and whistles. At the flat, Miss Lemon developed the photographs under red light. The ledger pages glowed ghostly. Jap burst in coat askew. The captives talked. All hired by the Countess. Moriarty was her puppet. She pulls the strings now. Poirot spread the maps beside the photographs. See the route. Arms flow south. Oil flows north. Money flows to Geneva. The Countess plans to vanish tonight. Private train to Dover. Then the continent. We stop her at the station. Victoria Station steamed and hissed. Dawn commuters hurried. Poirot and his team took positions. Hastings by the barrier. Jap with constables in plain clothes. Miss Lemon on the platform with a camera. The Countess appeared veiled in black porter wheeling a single trunk. She boarded the boat train. Poirot followed, slipping into the next carriage. The whistle blew. Wheels turned. Outside, London slid away. In the dining car, the Countess ordered coffee. Poirot took the facing table. She looked up, recognition dawning. "You are persistent." Poirot unfolded a photograph. "Your ledger page. £10 million. Blood money." She paled. "Blackmail." Poirot shook his head. "Justice." The train lurched. Brakes screamed. Gunfire. Masked men stormed the carriage. The Countess's private guard. Passengers screamed. Hastings crashed through the connecting door, revolver drawn. "Drop it." A guard fired. Glass shattered. Poirot dove, tackling the Countess. Her veil tore, revealing a serpent pendant. She clawed at his face. He pinned her wrists. The trunk, Jap shouted from the aisle. "Open it." Hastings forced the lock. Inside, not clothes, gold bars, stacks of bearer bonds, and a final ledger. "Names higher than kings." The guard lunged. Jap clubbed him down. Cuffs clicked. The train halted in open countryside. Local police swarmed aboard, summoned by Miss Lemon's earlier wire. The Countess sat defeated as dawn painted the fields gold. "You win this round, detective. But the serpent has many heads." Poirot secured the pendant in an evidence bag. "Then we sever them, one by one." Back in London, the Home Secretary resigned before noon. The Prince abdicated quietly. Newspapers screamed scandal. Poirot returned the original ledger to Mycroft, who locked it in a vault beneath Whitehall. The photographs vanished into Poirot's private files. Evening found the team in the flat. Fire low, tea cold. Hastings raised a glass. To the end, Poirot smiled faintly. To the pause between moves. Somewhere a new serpent stirred. But for tonight, order held. Chapter 5. The ghost in the machine. The flat smelled of fresh wax and lilac polish. Poirot stood before the mirror, adjusting a new tie the colour of storm clouds. Miss Lemon entered with the Morning Post and a single black-edged card sealed in red wax. No stamp, hand-delivered. She placed it beside his coffee. Poirot slit the wax with a butter knife. Inside, a single line typed in perfect capitals. "The machine awakens at noon." Beneath it, a tiny gear etched in gold. He turned the card over. Blank. Hastings looked up from the Times. Machine. Sounds mechanical. Jap arriving for breakfast grunted. Or metaphorical. Either way, trouble. At 11:47, the telephone rang. Miss Lemon answered, then held out the receiver. Anonymous. Male. Belgian accent. Not Duprot. Not Jean-Claude. Poirot took it. Speak. A voice smooth as oil. "Monsieur the Gear's turn. Look to the underground. Baker Street station. Come alone or the tunnels flood." Click. Line dead. Poirot donned his heaviest overcoat. Hastings reached for his hat. "Alone means alone, my friend. Stay with Jap. Guard the flat. Miss Lemon, you monitor the wires. Any word from the Yard or Paris, send a boy." He stepped into the lift before protest formed. Baker Street bustled with clerks and shoppers. Poirot descended the escalator, watching every face. At the platform, a busker played a hurdy-gurdy, the crank turning like a miniature mill. The tune was La Marseillaise, slowed to a dirge. Poirot dropped a shilling. The man nodded toward the eastbound tunnel. A workman in overalls vanished through a service door. Poirot followed. The door led to a maintenance corridor lit by bare bulbs. Pipes dripped. Rats scattered. 50 yards in the corridor widened into a disused junction box. A single chair. On it a brass device the size of a hat box. Gears whirred. A glass face showed 11:59. Red numerals clicked to noon. The machine hissed. A panel slid open, revealing a speaker. The same voice crackled. "Welcome, detective. You are punctual. Step inside the circle." Chalk marks ringed the floor. Poirot obeyed. The door behind him slammed shut. Bolts shot home. The machine spoke again. A simple choice. Solve the riddle or drown. Water began to trickle from ceiling vents. Cold. Fast. The riddle appeared on a strip of paper ejected from a slot. "I have cities, but no houses. Forests, but no trees. Rivers, but no water. What am I?" Poirot smiled despite the rising chill. A map. He tore a gear from the machine with his penknife and jammed the mechanism. The flow slowed but did not stop. He scrawled map on the paper and fed it back. The speaker crackled approval. Clever. Door 2 opens. A second door irised in the wall. Beyond, a narrow tunnel lit by green lamps. Water lapped his ankles. He ran. The tunnel sloped downward. At the end, a steel ladder. He climbed. A hatch. Locked. From above, a voice. Poirot. Hastings. The hatch lifted. Hands pulled him into a signal box. Jap and a dozen constables. We tracked the call. Hastings grinned. Never was good at alone. Below, the machine exploded harmlessly. A water main burst, flooding the junction. Engineers later said sabotage. Poirot knew better. Back at the flat, Miss Lemon had news. The gear on the card matched a patent filed last year. Inventor 1 Dr. Elias Vaughan. Address in Clerkenwell. Former watchmaker to the Tsar. Disappeared after the revolution. Clerkenwell workshop smelled of oil and ozone. Windows blacked out. The door hung open. Inside, benches groaned under half-built contraptions. Clockwork birds. Mechanical hands. A giant sphere of gears pulsing like a heart. In the center, Dr. Vaughan. Tall, thin, white hair wild. He turned, smiling gently. You solved my little puzzle. Most impressive. Poirot stepped carefully over cables. Your machine nearly drowned me. Vaughan shrugged. A test. The order requires precision. You passed. Join us. He gestured to a blueprint. A city of machines. Automatons to replace judges, policemen, kings. Order without human flaw. Poirot studied the plans. And the Serpent funds this. Vaughan nodded. Moriarty dreamed. The Countess pays. I build. He pressed a button. Panels slid. 4 automatons stepped forward. Brass faces. Glass eyes. Each molded to resemble Poirot. They raised arms. Fingers unfolded into blades. Jap burst through the rear door, revolver drawn. Drop it! The automatons turned as one. Blades whirred. Hastings fired. Sparks flew. One machine staggered. Vaughan laughed. Bullets accrued. He flipped a switch. The sphere glowed. The remaining 3 Poirot bots advanced. Miss Lemon appeared at a side window. She hurled a fire bucket. Water hit the sphere. Short circuit. Smoke poured. The machines froze mid-step. Vaughan cursed and fled through a hatch in the floor. They gave chase down iron stairs into the sewers. Water rushed knee-high. Vaughan ahead, lantern swinging. He reached a junction and vanished behind a grate. Poirot arrived seconds later. The grate sealed. A plaque read property of the Serpent Syndicate. Jap radioed surface teams. Hastings kicked the grate. Solid. Poirot traced the Serpent etching. A hidden lever. The grate swung inward. A narrow passage, dry, lit by electric bulbs. They followed. The passage opened into a cavernous chamber beneath the Thames. Rails ran across. A miniature train waited. Cars loaded with more automatons crated and labelled for export. Vaughan stood on the platform, conductor's cap on his head. Last train to Utopia, he called. All aboard. Poirot stepped forward. Your utopia is slavery. Vaughan smiled sadly. Order is freedom from choice. He pulled a cord. The train lurched. Poirot leapt onto the last car. Hastings and Jap followed. The train accelerated into a tunnel. Darkness swallowed them. Sparks flew from rails. The cars rocked. Crates shifted. One lid popped. A mechanical Poirot sat up, glass eyes glowing. It reached for Poirot. He ducked. The automaton toppled into the void between cars. The tunnel brightened. Daylight ahead. The train burst into an abandoned warehouse on the south bank. Sunlight streamed through broken skylights. Vaughan jumped from the engine and ran. Poirot pursued across catwalks. Below, more automatons waited in rows like soldiers. Vaughan reached a control podium. He slammed a lever. The army activated. Hundreds of brass Poirots turned as one. Blades extended. They marched. Poirot vaulted the rail landing among them. He grabbed a loose cable from the train and jammed it into a puddle of oil. Sparks. Fire. The front rank ignited. Panic rippled through metal ranks. Vaughan screamed. My children! Jap and Hastings arrived with fire crews. Hoses blasted. Steam filled the warehouse. The machines melted into twisted sculptures. Vaughan stood amid the ruins, soaked, defeated. Later in the flat, Vaughan sat cuffed, sipping tea. The order promised immortality through machine, I believed. Poirot closed the workshop ledger. Belief blinds. The Countess will fund no more dreams. Night settled. Big Ben told 9. Miss Lemon entered with a final telegram. From Geneva. The Countess arrested boarding a liner. Ledger evidence sealed her fate. Poirot raised his cup. To human order. Flawed but free. The fire crackled. Outside London slept unaware that brass ghosts had nearly walked its streets. Chapter 6. The Phantom. Auction twilight draped the streets of Geneva in velvet shadows as Poirot stepped off the train, his coat buttoned against the alpine chill. Miss Lemon followed with a leather satchel containing the last remnants of Vaughan-esque blueprints, while Hastings scanned the platform for Tail's revolver, heavy in his pocket. Japp had stayed in London coordinating with Interpol, but his latest wire burned in Poirot's mind. The Countess escaped custody, fled to Switzerland. Auction tonight. Artifacts of the order. Highest bidder takes the crown. Poirot hailed a cab and murmured an address to the driver. The Hotel des Alpes. Discreet. Expensive. Perfect for phantoms. The lobby gleamed with marble and crystal chandeliers, casting fractured light on velvet ropes guiding guests to a private salon. Poirot flashed a forged invitation Miss Lemon had typed that morning on embassy letterhead. They entered as collectors of rare antiquities, Hastings grumbling about the cold but playing his role as burly bodyguard. Inside, the air hummed with whispers and the clink of champagne flutes. Masked faces turned. A duke from Liechtenstein, a banker from Zurich, and there in the corner, the Countess Valeria Dragomir. Her emerald gown replaced by a simple black sheath eyes, sharp behind a feathered mask. She spotted Poirot, and her lips curved in a predator smile. The auctioneer, an elderly man with a monocle, rapped his gavel. Ladies and gentlemen, we begin with Lot 1. A golden serpent idol from ancient Carthage, said to grant dominion over shadows. Bidding opened at 50,000 francs. Hands rose. The Countess bid coolly. Poirot watched her fingers tap the armrest, a signal perhaps to an unseen ally. The idol sold to her for double the estimate. Next lot a ledger bound in human skin. Pages filled with alchemical formulas. The Countess refrained, but her eyes lingered. Poirot leaned to Hastings. She plays for the finale. The crown jewel. Midway through the auction, a waiter circulated with trays of caviar and absinthe. Miss Lemon slipped away to the powder room but returned moments later pale. Sir, the service door. Men with crates, armed. Poirot nodded subtly. Stole them. She vanished again, this time toward the kitchens. On stage the auctioneer unveiled Lot 12. A crystal orb etched with gears. Vaughan-esque prototype. Grants visions of the future. The Countess bid aggressively, driving the price to frenzy. Poirot countered anonymously through a proxy bidder, a nod to the Duke beside him. The orb went to the Duke, but Poirot saw the trap. Distraction. Gunfire erupted from the rear. Shouts in French and German. Masked intruders stormed the salon, pistols drawn. The auctioneer dove under the podium. Guests screamed, scattering like leaves. The leader, a tall figure in a hooded cloak, bellowed. The orb, now, or we paint the walls red. The Countess stood unmoved, her hand slipping into a hidden pocket. Poirot moved like shadow, weaving through the chaos to her side. Madame, your escape ends here. She spun, knife flashing. You again. Persistent pest. Hastings barreled forward, tackling a gunman. The revolver clattered. Miss Lemon emerged from the kitchens, wheeling a service cart laden with champagne bottles. She uncorked one with a pop and hurled it at the intruders. Glass shattered, foam exploding like a smokescreen. Poirot grabbed the Countess's wrist, twisting the knife free. It clanged to the floor. You lose, she hissed. The leader laughed from across the room. Fool, she is bait. The hooded man fired. Bullets whizzed past Poirot's ear, embedding in the ornate ceiling. Plaster rained. The Duke clutched the orb protectively, but a second intruder snatched it from his grasp. Hastings fired back, dropping the thief with a shot to the leg. The orb rolled under a table. Poirot dove, retrieving it as the leader advanced. He examined the crystal. Not Vaughan-esque, a fake. Weight wrong. He hurled it at the auctioneer's podium. It shattered harmlessly, revealing a hollow core filled with sand. The Countess laughed bitterly. Clever Belgian. But the real prize awaits. She stamped her heel. A trapdoor yawned beneath the stage, swallowing the auctioneer. From below, machinery groaned. Gears turned. The salon floor trembled. Walls parted, revealing hidden alcoves lined with more artifacts. Serpent idols, ledgers, and in the center a pedestal rising hydraulically. Atop it, a crown of twisted gold and rubies, the true relic of the order, said to command loyalty from the shadows. The leader removed his hood. Not a man, a woman. Sharp-featured, silver hair cropped short. Elena Voss, Vorne's sister, long thought dead in the revolution. She bowed mockingly. Welcome to the real auction, detective. Bids in blood now. Her followers closed in, rifles leveled. Hastings reloaded, cursing the jammed chamber. Miss Lemon pressed against the wall, eyes darting for escape. Poirot stood tall, orb shards crunching underfoot. Madame Voss, your brother's machines failed. This mysticism will too, Voss sneered. Elias dreamed small. I dream empires. The crown binds minds. Armies will kneel. Governments fall, starting with yours. She gestured. Take him alive. We dissect that famous brain. A scuffle broke. One intruder lunged at Poirot, fists swinging. He sidestepped, using the man's momentum to slam him into a velvet curtain. Fabric tore. The curtain fell, revealing a servant's passage. Miss Lemon seized the moment, darting through with a shout. This way. Hastings covered her, firing warning shots. Poirot grabbed the Countess's arm, dragging her toward the exit. Voss fired. The bullet grazed his shoulder, hot pain blooming. He staggered, but pressed on. They burst into the hotel kitchens, steam and sizzle enveloping them. Cooks scattered. Voss followers pursued, crashing pots and pans. Hastings barricaded the door with a stove. It buckled under kicks. Miss Lemon found a dumbwaiter large enough for two. Go, sir. She pushed Poirot and the Countess inside. The cage rattled downward to the basement. Hastings held the line, a lone revolver barking until empty. In the basement, wine racks towered like catacombs. Poirot shoved the Countess against a barrel, her mask askew. Talk. Where is the crown going? She spat. To the highest bidder, a sultan in Istanbul. Voss ships it tonight, by lake steamer. Poirot bound her wrists with apron strings from a hook. Good. Interpol will meet it. But you rot in a cell. Above, gunfire ceased. Footsteps thundered downstairs. Voss entered the basement, lantern in hand. Her face twisted in rage. Traitor! The Countess glared back. He bested you, Elena, as he bested your brother. Voss raised her pistol. Then he dies first. Poirot stepped from shadows, a wine bottle in hand. Madam, your family legacy ends. He swung the bottle, cracking it over Vorne's head. She crumpled, glass shards glittering. The Countess slumped, defeated. Hastings arrived, limping, blood on his sleeve. Jap. He wired ahead. Swiss police en route. Outside, sirens wailed. Lake Geneva lapped black and still. Poirot watched as Voss and the Countess were loaded into wagons, their empires crumbling. The crown secured in evidence. Miss Lemon bandaged his shoulder with a linen napkin. Another victory, sir. Poirot smiled wearily. Victories are fleeting, Felicity. The shadows always reform. Dawn broke over the mountains, painting peaks gold. A telegram arrived from London. New lead, Berlin. The order stirs again. Poirot folded it away. The hunt continued. Chapter 7. The Berlin cipher snow fell in thick, silent flakes over the Brandenburg Gate as Poirot stepped from the overnight train, his breath clouding in the Prussian air. Hastings shivered beside him, coat collar turned up against the bite, while Miss Lemon clutched a briefcase of Geneva photographs and the serpent crown now wrapped in velvet. A black Mercedes waited curbside, driven by a man in a leather greatcoat. Inspector Klaus Ritter of the Berlin Kriminalpolizei saluted stiffly. Herr Poirot, welcome to the Reich. Your reputation arrives before you. Poirot nodded once, and the danger with it. They sped through avenues lined with swastika banners and marching boots. Ritter briefed them in clipped tones. 3 murders in 4 nights, all senior cryptographers. all stabbed with a thin blade, all left with your calling card. The latest victim found this morning in the Tiergarten. Poirot listened, eyes half closed. The order moves from shadows to daylight. Bold, reckless. Ritter glanced in the mirror. Or desperate. The victims worked on Enigma. Our unbreakable code. The morgue smelled of bleach and pine. The latest corpse lay pale under a sheet. Dr. Heinrich Voss, no relation to Elena. But the coincidence chilled Poirot all the same. Throat opened ear to ear. On the steel tray beside him, the familiar card. Poirot lifted it with tweezers. Ink fresh. Paper matches London, Paris, Geneva. He turned to Ritter. Show me his office. Charlottenburg University stood quiet under snow. Voss' office sealed with red tape. Inside chaos. Drawers emptied. Safe cracked. Papers strewn. Poirot knelt amid the mess. See the pattern. Only cipher notes taken. The rest untouched. Hastings picked up a torn page. Equations. Looks like gibberish. Miss Lemon adjusted her spectacles. Not gibberish. Rotor settings. Enigma upgrades, a soft click. The door eased open. A young woman slipped inside, coat dusted white. Dark hair pinned under a beret. Eyes sharp. She froze, seeing them. Ritter reached for his Luger. Halt. She raised empty hands. I am Anna Voss, Heinrich's daughter. I have the key. She held up a brass cylinder the length of a finger. My father mailed it yesterday. Said if he died, bring it to the Belgian. Poirot took the cylinder. Engraved with tiny gears. A cryptex. Da Vinci design. Inside a rolled strip of vellum. He twisted the rings aligning symbols. A soft snick. The vellum unrolled. A single line in Heinrich's hand. The serpent speaks in threes. Below it a grid of numbers. Ritter frowned. Riddle. Poirot smiled thinly. An invitation. That night they gathered in a safe flat above a bakery, the scent of rye bread masking tension. Anna poured coffee, strong and black. My father feared the order. They wanted Enigma broken, sold to the highest bidder. He refused, so they silenced him. Hastings studied the grid. Threes, triplets, perhaps coordinates. Miss Lemon traced columns with a pencil, or dates. Look, 3333, the Reichstag fire. 9939, Poland invaded. Future predictions. Poirot stood at the window watching snow blanket the city. Not predictions, signals. The order plans 3 events. The cipher names them. He turned. Anna, your father attended a symposium last week. Speakers. She nodded. Yes. A mathematician from Vienna. Vanished 2 days ago. And a general. Still alive. Poirot snapped his fingers. The general. We speak tonight. General von Richter resided in the villa on the Wannsee Lake, guards at every gate. Ritter arranged entry under cover of darkness. The general, a bear of a man, greeted them in a study panelled in oak. Brandy glowed in crystal. You come about, Voss. Good man. Too good. He feared shadows. Poirot placed the cryptex on the desk. He feared you. Von Richter paled. Nonsense. I protected him. Miss Lemon opened her briefcase, spreading photographs. Geneva. The Crown. Elena Voss in chains. The general poured another brandy, hand trembling. Blackmail. They have my son. Hostage in Vienna. Poirot leaned forward. Then help us. The 3rd event. When? Where? Von Richter stared into the fire. Tomorrow. The Opera House. Gala for the Führer. A bomb, they said. Or assassination. I was to provide the distraction. Ritter drew his pistol. Traitor. Poirot raised a hand. No. Pawn. Like the others. He turned to von Richter. You will play your part. But for us now. Dawn painted the city grey. The Kroll Opera House loomed golden and grand. Crowds gathered in evening dress. Poirot entered as a Belgian diplomat, Hastings his aide Anna, a singer in the chorus. Ritter coordinated police outside. Miss Lemon took a seat in the god's binoculars ready. Inside, chandeliers blazed. The orchestra tuned. Poirot slipped backstage. Dressing rooms buzzed. He found the prop master, an old man with trembling hands. The serpent paid well, he whispered. Package under the stage, timed for the aria. Poirot followed him down narrow stairs. Beneath the boards a crate, wires, a clockwork mechanism ticking softly. He knelt. Same design as Vornis bombs, but smaller, elegant. From above, the overture began. Voices soared. Poirot worked quickly, snipping the blue wire. The ticking stopped. He exhaled. But then a second tick, fainter, from the flies. He looked up. A chandelier rigged with explosives. Remote trigger. Anna appeared breathlessly. The conductor, he's one of them, carries a baton with a hidden switch. Poirot nodded. Stall him. She vanished. Moments later, the aria swelled. The conductor raised his baton. Poirot climbed the ladder to the catwalk. Snow from his boots fell like confetti. The conductor pressed a concealed button. Nothing happened. The chandelier stayed dark. He frowned, pressed again. Poirot dropped behind him, clamping a hand over his mouth. Sleep, mon ami. A chloroform rag from his pocket did the rest. Below, the audience applauded. The Führer stood in his box. Safe. Ritter's men swarmed the stage, arresting the prop master. The conductor slumped in custody. Anna sang the final note, voice pure. Later in the flat, von Richter arrived shaken but free. His son released from Vienna unharmed. The cipher solved. 3 events thwarted. The Reichstag signal a feint, Poland a memory. The gala the strike. Poirot poured cognac. The serpent strikes in 3s. We cut off 2 heads. 1 remains. Anna held up a new card slipped under the door while they were gone. Same stock, same ink, a single word. Moscow. Snow fell harder. Somewhere east the gears turned again. Chapter 8. The Moscow Gambit. The Trans-Siberian Express thundered across the frozen steppe, iron wheels singing on steel rails, while Poirot sat alone in a private compartment, the serpent card turning between his gloved fingers. Moscow. 1 word. No signature, yet the ink smelled faintly of Geneva absinthe and Berlin gun oil. Hastings burst in, coat powdered with snow, cheeks red from the corridor wind. They've locked the dining car. Armed guards. NKVD. Miss Lemon followed, clutching a leather dispatch case. They searched my luggage, sir. Found nothing, but they know we're coming. Poirot slipped the card into his waistcoat. Then we arrive as guests, not intruders. Red Square glittered under floodlights when the train hissed into Yaroslavsky station. Breath froze in the air. A black Zis limousine waited, hammer and sickle pennant fluttering. The driver, a woman in a fur ushanka, saluted. Comrade Poirot, the People's Commissar expects you. They drove past onion domes and concrete towers, the city wrapped in iron dusk. Lubyanka's yellow facade loomed like a fortress. Inside, corridors smelled of wax and fear. Colonel Ivan Petrov greeted them in a sparse office, samovar steaming. You chase ghosts, little Belgian. Here ghosts wear uniforms. He slid a dossier across the desk. 3 cryptographers dead in Moscow, too. Same blade, same card. But here the killer leaves matryoshka dolls. Each corpse cradles 1. Open them. Poirot lifted the smallest doll from an evidence tray. Painted smile. He twisted. Inside a smaller doll. And another. 5 layers. The final held a microfilm. Miss Lemon projected it on the wall. Blueprints. A listening device. Vacuum tubes. Codenamed Zimoi, Serpent. Petrov lit a cigarette. Our Arctic listening posts. The order sells to your enemies. And ours. That night they walked the Arbat under lamplight, breath clouding. A street vendor sold kvass. Hastings bought 3 cups. Warmth against the cold. A boy darted from an alley, pressed a paper into Poirot's hand, vanished. A theatre ticket. Bolshoi. Tonight. Swan Lake. Box 5. The Bolshoi glowed gold. Chandeliers dripped light like honey. Box 5 stood empty. Velvet chairs waiting. Poirot entered alone. The orchestra swelled. Dancers spun. At the climax of the first act, the lights dimmed. A figure slipped into the shadows beside him. Tall. Cloaked. A woman's voice, low and amused. You travel far for a ballet, monsieur. Poirot did not turn. And you stage murder to Tchaikovsky. The woman laughed softly. Art requires sacrifice. She placed a matryoshka on the rail. Open it after the signets. De pas de 4 begans. Dancers leaped. When the music crested, Poirot twisted the doll. Inside, a brass key, and a note. Midnight. Metro. Revolution Square. Come alone or the tunnels burn. He left before the final curtain. Hastings waited in the cloakroom. Alone again? Poirot handed him the key. Never truly alone, mon ami. Revolution Square station gleamed marble and bronze. Chandeliers hung like frozen waterfalls. At 5 minutes to midnight, the last train departed. Platforms emptied. Poirot descended the escalator alone. Statues of workers and soldiers watched in silence. A single figure waited beneath the centermost arch. Short, egg-headed, mustache perfect. Another double. The doppelganger smiled. You are punctual. Like all good machines. He held a briefcase. Inside, the ZMEY prototype. Tubes glowed faint blue, enough to hear every whisper from London to Washington. Poirot stepped closer, and the price? The double opened a second case. Gold bars stamped with the serpent. 1,000,000 rubles. The order pays well for silence. Footsteps echoed. Hastings emerged from a side tunnel, revolver steady. Drop it! The double sighed. Predictable. He pressed a button on the device. A low hum. Lights flickered. The escalators reversed, grinding upward. From the tunnels poured 6 more Poirot bots, brass and glass, blades extending from sleeves. Hastings fired. Sparks flew. One automaton staggered. Poirot grabbed the gold case, hurling bars like grenades. Metal clanged against metal. The double laughed, backing toward a service door. You cannot stop progress. The machines marched. Miss Lemon appeared on the mezzanine, a fire hose coiled over her shoulder. She twisted the valve. Water blasted, short-circuiting the front rank. Steam exploded. The remaining bots slipped on wet marble, crashing into statues. Petrov's NKVD stormed from every arch, rifles barking. The double bolted. Poirot pursued through maintenance tunnels, boots splashing. The double reached a junction, yanked a lever. Gates slammed. Poirot skidded to a halt. Through the bars he saw the double board awaiting Draisine. Handcar pumping into darkness. A final gift. The ZMEY device left on the tracks, timer glowing. 0030. Hastings arrived panting. Bomb? Poirot studied the mechanism. Simple. Elegant. He snipped a single wire. Silence. Dawn found them in Petrov's office. The ZMEY secured. The double vanished into the metro labyrinth. Petrov poured vodka. You saved the Arctic secret. Moscow owes you. Poirot raised his glass. Debts are dangerous, Colonel, especially between nations. A knock. A young lieutenant entered. Saluted. Urgent cable from Berlin. Ritter. The general committed suicide. Left a note. The serpent sleeps in the Kremlin. Petrov's face hardened. Traitors everywhere. Poirot folded the cable. Then we wake the serpent. That afternoon they walked Red Square again. Snow had stopped. Sun glinted on golden domes. A street artist sketched portraits. He handed Poirot a fresh drawing. His own face, but the eyes were serpent slits. On the back, Cairo. Full moon. Hastings exhaled white clouds. Egypt now? Poirot tucked the sketch away. The order circles the world. We follow the sun. The train south waited, steam curling like incense. Another card, another city. The hunt never ended. Chapter 9. The Cairo eclipse. The Nile steamed under a brazen sun as Poirot descended the gangplank of the SS Karnak, the air thick with diesel and lotus. Cairo sprawled before him in a riot of minarets and motorcars, the call to prayer weaving through the honk of taxis. Hastings mopped his brow with a linen handkerchief already limp. Beastly heat, old boy. Miss Lemon stepped lightly behind them, parasol tilted like a bayonet, her dispatch case chained to her wrist. A porter in a red fez led them to a waiting Daimler, its hood ornament a silver ibis. The driver, a wiry man named Farouk, bowed low. Monsieur Poirot, the Shepherd's Hotel awaits, and the shadows with it. Shepherd's Terrace buzzed with pashas and correspondence, gin slings clinking under palm fronds. Poirot took a corner table, ordering mint tea strong enough to float a coin. A boy in a galabeah delivered a folded note on a silver tray. Wax seal, a serpent devouring its tail. Inside, spidery Arabic and a single line in French. Full moon, pyramid of Khephren, bring the crown. Farouk translated the Arabic. It says the eclipse will open the gate. Tonight. Dusk bled violet across the desert as they motored west, the Daimler's headlamps carving tunnels through swirling sand. The pyramids rose black against a copper sky, their edges sharp as obsidian blades. Farouk stopped at the Sphinx. Tourists gone, only wind and stars. Poirot adjusted his pith helmet, the serpent crown wrapped in silk inside his valise. Hastings checked his Webley. Loaded. Miss Lemon produced a torch and a folded map annotated in red ink. The entrance is beneath the causeway. Marked with the Ouroboros, they followed a camel track to the lesser pyramid. Sand hid the stone until Poirot's cane struck metal, a bronze ring set in rock. Hastings hauled. A slab grated aside, revealing stairs descending into darkness. The air turned cool, scented with myrrh and dust of centuries. Torches flickered to life along the walls, ignited by unseen hands. The passage narrowed, then opened into a hypostyle chamber. Columns carved as lotus and papyrus supported a ceiling painted with star charts. In the center, a circular pool of black water reflected the moon through a shaft above. Around it stood 12 figures in white robes, faces hidden by jackal masks. At their head, a woman in crimson, her headdress a golden cobra. She raised a staff. The eclipse begins. Poirot stepped forward. Madame, or is it Pharaoh, the crown is mine to deliver. The woman lowered her mask. Elena Voss, chains gone, eyes burning. You are late, detective. The order is reborn tonight. She gestured. The robed figures parted. On a basalt altar lay a sarcophagus of electrum, its lid carved with the serpent eating its tail. Inside, a man stirred. Not dead. Preserved. His face Poirot's own, but older, lined with desert sun. The double sat up, voice a dry whisper. I am the first. The template. Moriarty's true face before he wore yours. Hastings raised his revolver. Witchcraft. Elena smiled. Science. Cryonics. The crown sustains him. With it, he rules again. The moon slid across the sun outside. Darkness fell sudden and absolute. The pool glowed blood red. The first stood, joints cracking like dry reeds. He extended a hand. The crown. Poirot opened the valise. The serpent crown glinted, rubies dark as coagulated blood. He placed it on the altar. But first, a question. Why Egypt? Elena traced the Ouroboros on the sarcophagus. The eclipse aligns the ley lines. Power flows from Giza to Geneva, Moscow, every node of the order. The crown channels it. The first will speak with one voice across continents. She lifted the crown. The robed figures chanted in Coptic, voices rising. Miss Lemon whispered. The pool, look, bubbles rose. Something moved beneath. A mechanical serpent. Brass scales, glass eyes, coils thick as a man's thigh. It surfaced, jaws opening to reveal a crystal orb pulsing with light. The ZMI evolved. Elena placed the crown on the first's head. The orb flared. The chamber shook. Sand rained from the ceiling. Hastings fired at the serpent. The bullet ricocheted, sparking. The first laughed, voice echoing in Poirot's skull. You cannot kill what never lived. Poirot stepped to the pool's edge. Then I kill the power. He drew a small vial from his pocket. Holy water from the Vatican, blessed by the Pope himself. He uncorked it and poured. The water hissed on contact with the orb. Steam exploded. The serpent thrashed, scales splitting. Elena screamed. Guards lunged, Kolpish blades flashing. Hastings parried with his revolver butt. Miss Lemon swung her dispatch case, chain whipping like a flail. Farouk appeared from the shadows, a Bedouin knife in each hand. He cut down 2 guards in a blur. Poirot reached the altar, snatched the crown. The first clawed for it, fingers passing through air. The eclipse waned. Moonlight returned. The mechanical serpent sank, orb shattered. The first collapsed, skin crumbling to dust. Eleanor backed toward a side passage. This is not the end. The order is eternal. Poirot held the crown aloft. Eternal, perhaps, but headless tonight. Farouk hurled a knife. It pinned Elena's sleeve to the wall. She tore free, vanishing into darkness. Silence fell. The robed figures fled. The chamber lights guttered. Poirot wrapped the crown in silk once more. Hastings wiped blood from his brow. How many more, old chap? Poirot gazed at the pool, now still. As many as the stars. But one less tonight. Outside, the eclipse ended. Dawn painted the pyramids rose and gold. Farouk lit a cigarette, offering one to Poirot. He declined. Miss Lemon unfolded a telegram delivered by runner to the Daimler, from Petrov in Moscow. New signal. New York. The Serpent crosses the Atlantic. Poirot folded the message. Then so do we. The hunt sailed west with the sun. Chapter 10. The Manhattan Reckoning. The RMS Queen Mary cut through Atlantic swells like a silver blade, her funnels belching smoke into a sky the colour of gunmetal. Poirot stood at the rail, the serpent crown locked in the purser's safe below, its rubies hidden beneath false papers, declaring it a theatrical prop. Hastings paced the deck, binoculars sweeping for U-boats that never appeared. Miss Lemon typed reports on a portable Corona, the clack of keys lost in the wind. A wireless message crackled from the bridge. New York docks, Pier 90, midnight, come alone or the city burns. Same hand, same ink, same serpent seal. Manhattan rose at dusk, a jagged forest of light. The taxi from the pier threaded through honking traffic. Neon signs bleeding red and gold across wet pavement. Poirot directed the driver to the Waldorf Astoria, its Art Deco spires piercing the clouds. In the suite, a package waited on the table. Black box, red ribbon. Inside, a single brass key and a map of the subway system. One station circled in blood, City Hall, abandoned, closed since 1945. They descended at 11:47 p.m. The platform empty, save for a blind news vendor who pressed a folded Tribune into Poirot's hand. Front page eclipse over Empire State, tonight. The vendor vanished into the crowd. The map led to a service gate, rusted but unlocked. Stairs spiraled down, down, past tiled ghosts of a grander age. Mosaics of guilloche and gilt gleamed under Poirot's torch. The abandoned station opened like a cathedral. Vaulted ceiling, crystal chandeliers dark, brass rails tarnished. In the centre, a circular dais of black marble. On it, the final assembly. Every thread converged. Elena Voss stood robed in white, the mechanical serpent coiled at her feet, now rebuilt, larger, its glass eyes glowing cobalt. Beside her, Dr. Elias Vaughan, alive, hair singed, but eyes mad with triumph. General von Richter, wrists bandaged from Moscow's betrayal. Colonel Petrov, cigarette trembling between lips. And at the dais heart, the first, reassembled, flesh grafted over brass, the serpent crown fused to his skull with golden screws. Poirot stepped into the light. You gather the choir for the final hymn. Elena smiled, voice amplified by hidden speakers. The eclipse aligns over the Atlantic. Ley lines converge beneath this city. The crown, the Zmai, the first. Together they broadcast one command to every automaton, every agent, every government. One voice, one order. Vaughan adjusted a dial on the serpent's flank. The machine hummed, subway tracks vibrating. From side tunnels, brass Poirot bots marched in perfect lockstep. Hundreds, thousands. An army forged in Clerkenwell, Geneva, Moscow, Cairo. Their blades unfolded in unison. Hastings burst through a service door, Webley blazing. Miss Lemon followed, satchel slung like a bandolier. Farouk dropped from a ventilation shaft, knives flashing. Ritter's men, Berlin, Paris, Moscow, poured in from every arch, rifles raised. Petrov barked orders in Russian. The station became a crucible. Bullets sparked off brass. Blades clashed. Vaughan activated the serpent. It reared, jaws opening to reveal the ZME-Y orb, now the size of a melon, pulsing with stolen Enigma code. The first raised a hand. The bots froze. His voice boomed. Poirot's own timbre twisted into something ancient. Kneel! The command struck like a physical force. Ritter's men wavered. Petrov dropped his pistol. Hastings clutched his temples. Even Miss Lemon swayed. Poirot alone stood firm, the little grey cells a fortress. He stepped forward, cane tapping marble. "You mistake obedience for order." He reached into his coat, not for a weapon, but for the cryptex Anna Voss had given in Berlin. Inside, the final strip of vellum. Heinrich's true cipher. Not a warning, a kill switch. He twisted the rings. A high-pitched whine rose from the serpent's core. Vaughan lunged to stop him. Farouk intercepted, knife meeting throat. Vaughan gurgled, collapsed. The whine became a scream. The ZMI orb cracked. Light poured out, white and searing. The bots shuddered, blades retracting. The first clutched the crown, trying to tear it free. Golden screws tore flesh. Elena screamed as the dais split, marble crumbling into a void. Poirot shouted above the chaos. The serpent eats its tail. The orb exploded. A shockwave of pure static, every frequency, every code, ripped through the station. Brass melted. Glass shattered. The first's body liquefied. Crown and skull fusing into slag. Elena reached for Poirot, fingers clawing air, then fell into the abyss, her screams swallowed by darkness. Silence. Dust settled. The bot stood frozen, eyes dark. Hastings lowered his revolver, hands shaking. Miss Lemon closed her typewriter with a snap. Ritter lit a cigarette with trembling fingers. Petrov stared at the ruin, then at Poirot. "It's over." Poirot knelt beside the melted crown. Rubies cracked, gold pooled like blood. He picked up a single gear, still warm. "No, mon ami. It is finished." Dawn found them on the Waldorf roof, the city waking below. The serpent's network, bank accounts, safe houses, sleeper cells, had been broadcast to every intelligence agency on Earth by the ZMEY's death throes. The order died with its king. Hastings raised a cup of coffee. To the little grey cells, Miss Lemon smiled, rare and soft, and to the friends who carry them. Poirot looked east, where the sun rose over an ocean now free of shadows. "To order," he said. "True order, the kind that lets men choose." He dropped the gear into the Hudson. It sank without a ripple. The hunt was done.